So, let us begin. We are kind of like almost 10 minutes behind. Sorry, my bad. I forgot markers and I forgot many things this morning. So, as Melinda said, it's probably because of the warmth, we got so, lukewarm, lazy, at least I did, But the thing is, we are in the second Sunday after Epiphany, and if you will notice, hopefully you will, with Epiphany and then following Sunday with Baptism of our Lord, we were in white and glorious colors. Now we will turn into green, therefore into growth, into regular liturgical time. Okay? But our passage for today is 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 1 to 10. I'm not gonna make any sarcastic remarks on why those guys made that passage this long, because it's okay, whatever. It's just wrong, okay? Sorry. Whoever did this wonderful decision to end at verse 10 is I understand the intent. Because this passage is very good for Bible stories like this, where you have a baby Samuel, going back and forth between the place of the Lord to sleeping Elisha. Can you get my glasses probably from over there? Eli, yes, thank you. But the thing is, he is in the tabernacle. Thank you. He is somewhere not in the tabernacle itself, but probably within the realm, like a courtyard, somewhere there. He wakes up because he hears a voice. He goes to Eli. Then at the very end of our passage, he says, "Here I am, Lord, speak to me." The thing is, what did Lord say to him? That's the whole thing that we do not have. And what the Lord says to him is actually not really a pleasant thing. So, and then he delivers the message in the morning to Eli, and it's very interesting to see how Eli responds. Okay? But we'll stay with this. I kind of like what happened last time. I had notes, like 7 points that I wanted to cover. We covered only 5, so right now I have 9. I thought, if we did not cover 7, if we will stretch our attention to 9, maybe we will cover 7 this time. So, that's one of the things. That's one of my first point is we have a short problem with the length of our passage. And the thing is, there is another one connected to that. I will be very happy if you will find me a story in the children's Bibles where Samuel is not depicted as a teenage, not even teenage, as some kind of, like 10-year-old boy. Okay? Like here. Bad. Wrong. This is not what happened. Why? Because we need to read Bible carefully. Okay? And it's very interesting. We have ESV, I have ESV right in front of me, but our liturgical ESV will render it a little bit better. It says the young man. When you will hear it during worship service, pay attention. The passage says the young man Samuel and so on and so forth. That's better. The reason we know he was not a boy is there are 2. One of them is he is in the ministerial area. And if he would be a boy, he would not be allowed to be there. The first time when you allowed to enter as a minister as a 25, you are kind of preordained. And then at age 30, you are fully ordained as a pastor. Priest at that time, but it's like our ordination as a pastor. Okay? That's why Jesus went through his baptism at age 30. As we talked last Sunday, it has nothing to do with a dull decision to give your life to the Lord. Okay, if that's true, if you have to give your life to the Lord at age 30, as Jesus did, therefore, there should be no baptism at 14, 16, 18, or anything else, 30 only. Ideally, in the free-flowing river, and that river should be Jordan. So I guess El Al, the air company of Israel, will benefit from that greatly. See? But seriously speaking, Jesus started his ministry at age 30. And here we do have the same thing. One more thing. If we will jump a little bit up into chapter 2 of 1 Samuel, verse 12, the sons of Eli were worthless men. Okay?
Yes.
Cool. Now, verse 18. Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy clothed with linen ephod. The problem is that word man and boy in Hebrew is identical. Don't look like that at me, Charlie. I'm not the one who prepared the translation. Sorry, that's what I don't know why they made that. Because probably in their childhood they read too many children's Bibles. And I have no problem with children's Bibles, but we need to be very, very careful of what we read in children's Bibles. Because we will end, with a 9-month pregnancy Mary on the back of the donkey, traveling from Nazareth to Bethlehem. That's the same level of stuff, okay? So, he is, in Hebrew it's called Na'ar. That's the guy under supervision. Okay, he is under supervision, but it doesn't mean that he is 10-year-old. Okay? Otherwise, he would not be able to minister in the sanctuary. Next thing is his cool name, Shmuel in Hebrew. And so let me write it down. His name. Are we going to break anything? No? So we have Samuel. Okay, first of all, whenever you see biblical name, even in English, with ending L, most likely that will turn into God. Okay? Like 99.9%, you do not need to even think about that. Okay? So this one is a little bit trickier. In Hebrew, it's Shmu. Shmu. So it's Shmuel. Shem is a name. Okay? Just the word means name. Okay? Like the name of God. So the name U is plural pronoun. So it's the name to us is God. Okay? So something like that. Name. Or our name. Name to us. God. Okay? Something like this. Next thing, which is very important, I believe, is very important to talk in this passage, is verse 2. At that time, Eli, and Eli, or Eli, you probably say Eli, but it's Eli, it's my God, again, El is God, and E is my, so his name means my God, whose eyesight has begun to grow dim, so that he could not see. Why it is important? There are at least two things that we need to say about that. Or maybe even three. One thing is, now think in the Bible. In the previous books and chapters of the Bible, who do you know whose eyesight was dimmed or who got basically blind?
Saul.
Who?
Saul.
First of all, Saul is here on that side. It's not previous chapters. Saul will appear probably in chapter 8 or 9. He will be first anointed by Samuel. No. If we go from these chapters previously to the beginning of the Bible.
I'm trying to remember the name of Jacob and Esau's father. Was that
Isaac.
Isaac. Okay.
Good. Okay. That's where I'm going to. Great.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Isaac. And what's the problem with him being blind? Is it just a natural cause? or anything else. Why? Why author of Genesis actually makes a big deal out of the fact that he is blind? Let me ask you another question. Who did Isaac wanted to bless?
The younger
Esau.
son.
No, he wanted to bless actually older, but the Esau, okay? Not the one that was told will inherit will be the covenant bearer, okay? So his blindness, his physical blindness is also a sign or a marker of his spiritual blindness. Okay? And same thing we find here. That's why we have a problem with the passage. Because what Lord tells to Eli as a high priest is the main problem with you, guy, is your family is bad. You did not discipline your guys. You did not discipline 2 of your sons. And they act in such a way that people do not want to come and worship me. Okay? We are not going to go through the very much detail, but if you again flip back into chapter 2, they do 2 very bad things. Not like 2 things, but they do 2 type of things on the regular basis. One of them is when people would come to worship, if they want to make so-called peace offering, the offering which is given, part of that is given to the Lord in ascension, part of that is given to the priest, and part of that is actually you share as a layman, you would share a meal with the priest and in the presence of the Lord. Okay? That means if you can do that, that means you are at peace with God, and God is at peace with you. He's happy with your sacrifice and with you fellowshipping with Him in those ordinances. So those guys would come with their fork and take some of the part of the sacrificial meal that should have been given to the Lord. Okay? So it looked like that the layman would not give a proper sacrifice to God. And they did not want to participate in that because this is just simply wrong. So they would rob God of His portion. Okay? So if priests start to act like that, people say, "No, we don't want to come." I mean, it's easier to stay at home and pray, as we would, some people today, you can read Bible at home, you do not need to go to church. I understand where it comes from. Sometimes where you go to church, it's not the best place to be. I hope it's not, by no means it's related to Zion. Seriously, I've heard just like a week ago, I've heard an opinion from a person who is not part of our congregation, but the thing was, when I came, it was like, the heart warmth of the people, it's like overwhelming and so on and so forth. Yeah, we do have a great congregation, but in some places, when leaders start to act in that way, it actually pushes people away. Okay, so they would act in a way that will push people away on the liturgical level. Apart from that, they would get those 2 guys, the sons of Eli, would get into very close and very intimate relationship with what we would probably call deaconesses. The ladies who would serve around the table, probably who would wash the clothing and, prepare some things and so on and so forth. So, and Father didn't say anything. So that's why he is... I don't want to say chastised, but he's judged by God. Okay? So he is dim. His eyes grow dim, so he cannot see. Yes?
So the father is watching his daughters abort? Is that what you're saying?
No, sons, we getting into inappropriate relationship with women at the tabernacle.
And
Yes.
so he is not chastising them or disciplining them?
No, he
for their
didn't.
behavior?
No. I know. It's very...
And we're talking, though, also about being right next to the Holy of Holies, right?
Well, okay. for me to properly kind of comment on that, what makes you so surprised? Like, how could they do that? If you can answer the question, how people in the church can allow inappropriate sex relationship within their members, I will be able to respond. Unfortunately, that happened then, but it happens now.
Right.
And people, no, we need to be more inclusive. Aren't we? Okay. But they take word inclusive into completely different way, at least not the way we are. Okay? So that's what's going on here. Yes, and so that's why in next chapter after us, in chapter 4, actually those two guys at the battle with Philistines decided that Lord will be on our side. He will help us. So they brought the ark to the battlefield. When they brought the ark to the battlefield, actually Philistines who were on the other side of the battlefield got into shock and fear because they knew what kind of God is that. But ark decided to go to captivity. It's better for ark to go into captivity than to stay within the realm of this priesthood. So then this family dies out. Basically, almost 2 of them die on the battlefield, and the father dies of the heart attack because he hears the news about what happened at the battlefield. And then Samuel takes the charge, and we have another family of priests rising slowly but surely, and we have another priesthood on the horizon. Then, in a half a year, ark comes back. Okay? So, now, going back. So it is important, when we see when we see a person with a dim eyesight, with almost blind or blind, not always, but especially in the realm of what we call Old Testament, most likely it's a spiritual blindness. Okay? And that's what actually gives a reason for one of my, or probably the favorite song that we have in our hymnals, Amazing Grace. I once was lost, but now I'm fine. Was blind, but now I see. But we know that John Owen, who wrote the song, was never blind. Okay? But the point is, what he makes in the song, in this great hymn, is you don't see it right. Okay? And now, with Jesus as your guiding star, you see it right. Okay? That's why, in the very end, actually, of, let's go for a second into Deuteronomy 34. The description of Moses right before he died. So Deuteronomy 34, and particularly verse 7. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was undimmed, and his vigor unabated. Okay? Why? Why do we need to know that the Moses' eyesight was undimmed? Because he still see. I mean, he saw what's going on. He had right vision. Okay? So let's go back. Then there is very interesting thing in verse 3. So Samuel chapter 3, verse 3. The Lamb of God was not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Okay, 2 things about that. First of all, the lamp was not gone out. If you will ever pick up a commentary that says that they would quench the lights for the night and then light them in the morning, no. The idea is that the lampstand in the holy place would always be lit. Okay? So out of your just for fun, looks roughly like that, some kind of tree with 7 lights. Okay? Okay. So you know how a lamp look like? Something like kind of like a small teapot, that we have. And then through the, like a nose thing, you put thread with an oil, so you close it, and then it would burn. The worst case scenario is one would be what would be the verb quenched, taking the lamp, make sure that the thread is right, enough oil, then you light it, you put it back. Okay? Now this is lit. Then you take this one and service this one. So it would constantly burn and give a light. Okay? So it has nothing to do with day and night stuff. That's the whole thing. The idea is here that when the ark was taken out into captivity, the whole system went down. Okay? So what we read here happened before the ark ended in captivity. Okay? That's just, it's more a historical marker than anything else. And then the second part is, what a surprising word we find here. Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord where the ark of the God was. Okay? The problem is that the temple will be built in roughly 150 years from now, from this moment. So that the temple, which is built by Solomon, is built by Solomon, who is the son of David, whom Samuel anointed when Samuel was about 80 years old. Okay? One more time. Temple was built by Solomon, who is the son of David, who was anointed as a young boy when Samuel was about 80 years old. Okay? Why do we have word temple here? Okay, there are two ideas, and I like both of them, so I'm happy to share. One of them is whoever wrote 1st and 2nd Samuel. So first of all, 1st and 2nd Samuel is one book. It just has two parts. So it's Samuel. It should be not 1st Samuel, but Samuel part 1 and Samuel part 2. Why did they break it in two books? One simple reason. They did not have books, published like this. What kind of books did they have? Scroll. Okay? You can have a scroll only a particular length. Therefore, you can fit only X number of chapters on the scroll. Otherwise, you can make a scroll basically as long as you want. It's like a Subway sandwich. I mean, some people did it, recently, really huge and long one. The point is, if you have a huge scroll, and the scroll, guys, let me tell you, as a person who had experience with holding one, it's made out of, skin of either goats or sheep or something like really cool. It's pretty heavy thing. So if you have a long scroll, when you roll it up together, you need like a, few buffy guys, probably like those that, Jeff teaches at the country club, No, you need to carry the scroll on basically, I mean, the worst case scenario on your shoulder. That Jesus was given the scroll of Isaiah. So they carried out the scroll of Isaiah, placed it, rolled it out, and that's it. Okay? So that's the only reason why we have Samuel 1 and Samuel 2. As the books. But whoever wrote it wanted to convey an idea that slowly but surely that particular space was not a sanctuary that we will find preparation for in the end of the 2nd Samuel. When David will gather up lots of materials, cedar trees, gold, and there is a weight of gold, silver, the weight of gold, and the copper, no measure of copper. It was just so much copper that they didn't even mess up with measurements. Okay? So we have a sanctuary here. There is another idea, and I kind of like it too. Another idea is, even though it was a tabernacle, and the tabernacle is a set of poles, okay, with a cloth border in between. Okay, so it's kind of like if we would have on our portico or patio, we have those poles, but if we would put, some kind of drapes in between, that would be, but on the grass, that's how tabernacle would look like. It's portable. And the sanctuary itself is a tent. Again, portable. But we didn't draw it. And I should have. On our most precise timeline, okay, where are we? So let's say this is our Exodus, 1445 BC, okay? And that's our temple built, roughly 1000 BC, okay? And then another couple dates that you probably know by now, 586 BC, that's our exile and temple is destroyed. Okay, so where are we? We are over here, like over here. Okay, that's our Samuel. Okay, with about, as I said, 100, 150 years. So let's say, just for fun, 850 BC. Sorry, my boo-boo, I don't count right. So it will be 1150 BC. Okay? Why do we need to say that? The thing is, we enter into the land with about 105 BC, and that means for roughly 400 years, even though it is portable, tabernacle is portable, but it stays in one place. Okay? Now think about that. You have a tent, okay? This is your holy, okay? Because this should be square, okay? That's your holy and holy of holies. That's your courtyard with your poles, every X number of feet. That's your door here. There is a door, kind of like a veil here. There is a veil here, so on and so forth. The thing is, when it stays in one place for about 400 years, what happens? People around it start to settle. Okay? They start to build stuff for themselves. Okay? And even though it could be tents, but it's like in such a permanent state that people do not think that it's going to move. So they started to treat the whole area as we will treat the temple. Okay? So the word temple should trigger something more permanent than it was in reality. Okay? Now, next thing that we need to talk about is verses 8 and 9. As I said, that Eli was blind, but yet he was not blind in a total way. He knew, and he okay, probably I need to, in a sense, apologize to the memory of Eli. He did discipline his kids, but his discipline was not enough. He didn't discipline them strong enough. Let's put it this way. And so he allowed his son to just not pay attention to his discipline. So with his leftover of spiritual guidance, he was able, finally, at the second time, he was able to figure out what's going on with Samuel. So let's read verses 8 and 9. So when the Lord called Samuel again, he arose and went to Eli on the third time, and said, "Here am I, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Okay? And then he tells him, when this voice will appear to you, or you will hear it again, just say, "Here I am, speak to me. Speak, Lord, to your servant, for your servant hears." And so Samuel goes back. Interestingly enough, he just repeats, just identically, exactly what Eli had told him to do. In verse 10, "And the Lord came and stood, calling at the other time, 'Samuel, Samuel.' And Samuel said, 'Speak, for your servant hears.'" And that's the end of our wonderful, positive, story. As I said, what Lord told him was not really positive, and what happened afterwards is not real positive. For Eli's sons die on the battlefield, and Eli died himself. Okay? But in this particular story, that's what we need to kind of capture from or pay attention to. So, questions or comments?